Take it away, Jane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I am the head of democratic engagement, a weird, wonderful, and possibly unique job title. Some of you out there might tell me you've got the same one. If so, please come and see me, because quite frankly, my parents don't believe it's a real job. And last year I got married, and the vicar was convinced that I'd given up my job to plan my engagement for an entire year. It took some convincing to decide that I actually did have a real job. But so what do I actually do? What I do is, as Michael said, we had 85,000 employees, and I ensure that their voices are heard and listened to by the leaders of our organisation. So, what is the John Lewis Partnership? I'm fully appreciative of most people outside the UK have not heard of us, so I'll just give you a little bit more detail. So we're a chain of department stores. We've got 50 department stores selling everything from cotton reels to kitchens and everything in between. We've got 350 supermarkets focused on the high end of food retail. And we also have a farm. You can see one of our partners in his Land Rover down on the farm there. And they produce everything from mushrooms to really great sparkling wine and not quite so interesting milk. So that's who we are as a John Lewis Partnership. But that's not why I'm here to talk to you today. We are owned in a very, very different way. We don't have shareholders, all of us, and that means absolutely all of us, including the people who just work 8 hours in the supermarkets on a weekend. We are all co-owners of our business. So how did we end up that way? Just to give a little bit of history, I won't take too long. The clue is in the name, John Lewis. And back, this is in the 1800s, there was a chap called John Lewis, and he had a department store. Well, it wasn't actually a department store, it just sold fabric to make your dresses, which was all the rage back then, on Oxford Street, the busiest shopping street in London, and it still is. And he had 2 sons, Oswald and John Lewis, that's a popular name back then. In fact, we also have his great-great-nephew who works for us called, guess what? John Lewis. But we call him Patrick, because otherwise it would get really confusing. And they were running this store together. But John Lewis, the junior one, he fell off his horse. As again, a lot of people did that back in the late 1800s. And he had some time to think about, given his recuperation time, he had some time to think about what his family were doing, and the fact that his brother and his dad and him took away all of the profits of the company. And he came to thinking, this doesn't quite seem right. It was around thinking that actually, how sustainable is this? And this was sort of starting to get into sort of the 1910s. People were starting to get better educated. And he was starting to think, people are going to cotton on. It's not right that we're taking away all this money. And if you think about what was happening in the wider society, Europe and all of that kind of thing at that time, he was probably right. So when he got back on his feet, quite literally, he persuaded his parents, and his father in particular, quite reluctantly, to give him some cash and to go and buy another store. And there he started to experiment, remember that word, experiment, with working in a different way. He didn't do this because he was a nice chap, because actually he really wasn't actually that nice if you read some of the stuff that he wrote about people. But he did it because he thought it was a better way of running business. He started to give his employees more of a say in how they would run their business, and started to give them better benefits. Again, this was a time where there wasn't much healthcare, but he started to look after them in that kind of way as well. And after a couple of years, he started to make a profit. He was right. It was a better way of doing business. And roll on a few years, and he was able to give his business away in trust. This was the first time in 1928 he gave it away in trust to his employees and started to share the profits with them. And it grew and grew to be a very successful business. What he did was, red light, green, he set up the ultimate purpose, and you've heard quite a bit today about purpose-led businesses, and he did this very early on. He set up our purpose as a business as the ultimate purpose of the happiness, hence what I'm here to hear for you today, of all its members through worthwhile and satisfying employment in a successful business. because the partnership is owned in trust for its members. They share the responsibility of ownership as well as its rewards, profit, knowledge, and power. So that is our ultimate purpose as a business. And that's what I'm going to do to talk to you about today, is how do we make that come alive in today's business? So any of you who have anything to do with retail know it's really quite tough out there at the moment. It's changing massively. I'm sure none of you have heard of John Lewis. All of you will have heard of Amazon. It's out. It's changing the retail world, as is online in general, massively. And therefore, as a result, we're going through huge amounts of change. So do we always get this perfect? Absolutely not. But is it at the heart of everything that we do? It completely and utterly is. So how does this actually react in reality? And I was sitting back there early this morning and I was quite relieved actually, because some of the theory that was coming out is actually what we are able to do in purpose. That was a bit of a relief. We talk about profit, knowledge and power. What does that mean? Oh, there we go. So power. So our organisation is run on democratic principles. We have a governing authority that has the power to, quite frankly, sack our chairman. And they are 65 individuals who are voted for by all of our employees. It's quite a process to run, but it is worth it because of the feeling of individual power that gives all of our employees. So these individuals, you can see that up there on the far picture. You can see me in the picture. It's a bit like Where's Wally in the corner there. And actually, this took place yesterday as well. This picture's from 6 months ago. But every 6 months, we vote on the chairman and the confidence in his leadership. This is all done really publicly. It's live streamed to our whole organisation, and then everyone can see, and all the 65 individuals get the opportunity to ask the questions that they want of our chairman. As I say, it gives a real feeling that our employees do but get to influence how our business is run. We also have knowledge. So knowledge. We're a large organisation. As you will all know, it's really hard to communicate to your employees. Most of our employees don't have work email addresses. They don't sit in front of screens all day. So we have put a massive emphasis in making sure we communicate on a weekly basis with our teams. And the main way we do this is through the Gazette. So you can see we just had a 100-year edition. That's on the far side there. And this has all manner of things, the weekly business results, telling people how their business is done. But it also has something really quite unique. It has partner letters. So any partners in our organisation can write anonymously, if they want to, a letter, and they address it to senior individuals within our organisation who make the decisions, and they need to get a response within 21 days. And this is all published within here. I'm not going to lie to you, not all the letters are full of happiness, and sometimes they are very, very challenging about some of the decisions that are being made, especially recently, in terms of where you're trying to make change throughout the business. But they are answered openly and honestly, and it gives a real sense of transparency within our organisation, and people know they can talk to those individuals who make decisions within our business. And then we have profit. So, profit, we don't have shareholders. That does give us advantage over probably many of you, and I do appreciate that. But it means that our profit can be shared in a really different sort of way. We have a day every year where we announce what the profit percentage is. And our bonus is shared very differently. It's not based on individual goals or KPIs. It's based on how we've done as a business. And then you get a percentage share of your salary. So whether or not you're the chairman or whether or not you're that weekender who works 8 hours on a Saturday on a checkout, you get a percentage. For the last 20 years, it's raised between 24%, that was a really great year, to this year, 5%, not such a great year. But that incentive to get that bonus back up really does help us. It is the most, although we fully appreciate that actually from an engagement perspective, it's not all about cash. You guys know that, you work in this industry. That isn't what motivates people. It is a really tangible way, and the way that it is shared between employees is a really tangible demonstration that we are a different sort of doing business as well. And because we don't have shareholders, we are able to spend our money in a different sort of way as well. And we have a range of hotels that our partners can go and stay in. vast majority of our partners are on the lower end of the pay spectrum. They work in shops, they work in retail. So we are able to give them the opportunity to go away and have great holidays. I'm sure many of you are thinking it's possibly your worst nightmare to go on holiday with a load of other people who work for the same company for you. But we have thousands of people who do that every year. And they get to do some great things. When they were first set up, there were some very British activities, lawn bowls, croquet, golf. That's now moved, thankfully, to mountain biking, whitewater rafting, and still golf. I've never quite understood that myself. But it's fun, but they absolutely love it. There are also opportunities to learn. Again, we fully appreciate that it isn't just about the 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. We subsidise people to go skiing, to learn photography, new languages. And we also pay people 50% of people's ticket subsidy as well to go to theatre and concerts. Again, they're in a low-paid industry. How do we expose them to some great stuff that we wouldn't do otherwise? Which is all good. We also find people stick around for us for a long time. Hopefully that means they're happy. That's what I'm hoping anyway, and that's what all the signs would indicate towards us. And which means that we have hundreds of people every year who hit their 25 years. And they've done 25 years worth of service, which means we give them 6 months off, and we give them that paid. They go and do some great things. They go travel around the world, cycle across America. They, what else do they do? Learn new languages. And if they haven't saved to do that, we will help support them to do that. It's really important, I'm sure you all feel, if you've done 25 years within an organisation, you need a break. And we really want to make sure that they have that to think about what the next stage of their career might be as well. We also, because people work for us for a long time, focus on our retired partners. We have thousands of them, quite literally, especially as people are staying around a bit longer now. And we have a small team of current partners who look after them and really focus on their well-being. They have parties, as you can see here. I understand they're quite raucous affairs, especially the over 85s. They tend to be the ones that really let their hair down at these events. But it really indicates, if you've given your working life to John Lewis Partnership, unless you want to, these are not compulsory, just to be really clear, unless you want to, you don't have to walk away from the partnership in its entirety. And then talking about some of the stuff that was touched on this morning, about feeling part of a wider community. We give our teams the opportunity to do what's called Golden Jubilee Trust, where we have partners can use their skills within their working day, so whether or not that's HR or IT, to go and spend 6 months working with a charity they really care about. And we pay them to do it. We pay them their normal wage to do it. And in that, in doing so, we give them an opportunity to really add value to charities that many of them have worked with for years and years and years. And we are also work as part of the wider community. There was one thing that happened, a tragedy that happened in London almost a year ago now, where unfortunately there was a big fire and a number of people unfortunately died and hundreds of people were made homeless. But the organisation, John Lewis Partnership, decided very quickly, overnight, to kit out the emergency relief centres and the temporary accommodation for those individuals who lost their homes. I'm telling you about it now, but actually very few other people know about that. And I'm telling you because it makes me really proud to work for an organisation that just did that, because it was the right thing to do. And we had the opportunity to do so as well. So those are some of the things that partners get for being co-owners. But we need to be a successful business. Otherwise, none of this would exist. We wouldn't have been going for 100 years if we weren't successful. And it's really important for us that our partners are enabled to act as co-owners as well. But some of you may well be owners of your business, and that means you can act in a different way. And we have to do a lot of work to ensure that we free our partners up to be able to act as though it actually was their business. We're a large organisation. We have rules and regulations like everybody else does, but we try and give people the freedom to work within that framework and to deliver. And one of the areas in particular that they do that is within customer service, where we try and give them free rein to just deliver great customer service. Some of the examples that I would mention is there's a lady who works in the shoe fitting department in John Lewis. She recognised that there were parents who were completely stressed out coming in, and I'm sure some of you will recognise this, with children who just couldn't cope with all the noise and the distraction of a shoe fitting. So she created a quiet area for children to have their shoes fitted, which we then rolled out. We recognised it was a brilliant idea. We rolled out across the country. And this lady was just able to do it, which was the whole point of being a co-owner. We also had the opportunity to... there was an opportunity arose for some partners. For any of you who spent any time in the winter in the UK will know we are rubbish at dealing with snow. And there's knowing laughter around the room. And one year it was starting to snow in one afternoon, and the shop was really busy. And it came apparent very quickly, because it was snowing very hard, that neither customers or partners were going to be getting out that evening. And the people who were in the branch just decided to take over the bedding department, which is quite a nice idea, open the duvets, and it was a massive sleepover. There were a large number of people who had no choice but to sleep over. We operate a culture where it's absolutely better to ask forgiveness if something goes wrong than to necessarily ask permission. Because if someone had tried to get on the phone and sort of say, oh, can I let people stay over? And then it would all gone sort of, we just did it. It was great. And that's absolutely the spirit of co-ownership that we try to engender within our large organisation. We also, like many of you, I'm sure, have reward and recognition programmes. But we don't focus those purely on who's made the most profit this month, who's hit their KPI, all of those standard things. What we really focus on is actually Principle 1. So the last big, for want of a better word, party that we had was the Chairman's Award for Excellence. And in that, the people that who were awarded were those individuals who were nominated by their teams for delivering Principle 1 in their area of the business. And that was really celebrated. Yep. And then, so I mentioned earlier, experimentation. So experimentation, as I said, retail is really tough at the moment. It would be really easy for us as an organisation to clamp down and say, cut, cut, cut. There's no way we're going to get our way out of this. We just need to beat Amazon on price. But that wouldn't get us where we need to. And it also wouldn't mean that we would be achieving Principle 1 as a focus. We see ourselves as an organisation who is trying to achieve Principle 1 first, rather than a retailer who's trying to achieve Principle 1. And therefore, we engender a spirit of experimentation within our organisation, which means, quite frankly, if people screw up, we don't come down too hard on them. And as a result, we started to set up different sorts of business. One of the things that we're trialling at the moment is something called Home Solutions, where our partners, because we know they're great, are going into people's homes and testing out how to, in terms of fixing people's fittings and fixtures, and it's working quite well. We also have people who we know loads about wine, because they've been selling wines in our Waitrose stores for years, and they're going out and having parties. We're seeing how this goes. We have had absolute disasters. We launched a very exciting gold card for our regular customers. It failed. We moved on very, very quickly as a result of that. So we, as an organisation, absolutely know that we started with an experiment and we need to continue in that way. And that, in terms of, is where I'll finish. In terms of experimentation, we don't know where we'll be in 2028. As I say, retail's really tough at the moment, but we absolutely need to keep experimenting. Do I know where we'll be? No. Do I know that Principle 1 and the happiness of our partners will be at the heart of it? I absolutely believe that it will be.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you. One of the many things that I really noted was that you said it was actually not about being nice. Nope. The founder was not a very nice person.
No.
It was about finding the better way to do business.
Yep.
That's a good point, isn't it? But when I hear you, and compared to the companies I know, you are like from another planet.
Yeah.
I mean,
JLP,
if you are in an established company, you do have owners, you do have shareholders.
Yep.
You cannot do much about it. So if people think that your concept, your way of doing business is just beyond our reach, are they right?
So from an ownership model, yes, potentially, unless you've got owners who are thinking that they could give away their business, which is a growing trend in the UK for small businesses, but I know that is off the cards for most people, then the ownership model is different. But I don't think the leadership is. So all of the other speakers have spoken about the fact that it is about how you treat your employees and the different conversations and the freedom that you give them. That's not about the fact that we're owned by us.
No, anybody could do that.
That's about the way we're led.
Yeah.
And I know I'm lucky. I've worked for them for 14 years and I do consider myself really lucky. But it is about the way you lead. And people aren't born partners. People aren't born to be JLP leaders. These people come from other organisations and adopt this way. You can learn to work in this way as well.
If somebody in the audience, hopefully many in the audience, would like to do some of the things that you are doing at JLP,
Yep.
which place would you recommend them to start?
So listening. So it's my job. So I would say this, but it's about really listening. So I was at the holding to account, which is the half-yearly thing with the chairman, where they all put their hands up or don't, as was part of the case yesterday, to say they support him. And the reason why he wasn't getting support is because he wasn't listening. Partners, all employees, have great, brilliant ideas, and you think you're hearing. And probably for my first 10 years, I thought I was hearing what they were saying, but I wasn't listening. And really giving people the opportunity to bring their ideas out and to surface them. And that's, it's easily said, it is much harder to do. But giving your partners the real opportunity, not just to voice their platform.
So you say that listening is important, and you said that for the first 10 years, you thought you were listening.
Yeah.
But you did not listen.
Yeah, I heard.
But then some kind of transition must have happened within you. What was that transition?
So I got the job I currently do, which is all about listening. And then people gave me a really hard time for it. So people gave me a really hard time for it because I'd been working in a very operational way. And I came into a world where actually it was all about listening and made me really, really focus on it. And we do see people in our organisation as they grow up, because as I say, a lot of us work for a long, long time. Yeah. Actually, the penny drops after a little bit. It's not, as I say, you are not born to lead in this way. It can naturally come after a time.
All right, beautiful story. Can I show you something at last?
Yeah.
We have these signs where you can put on stuff, write a takeaway, and put that on SoMe. And actually, the crew members will come up here and take a photo of you on stage. And you can write your preferred takeaway. You can do 2, you can do 3, you can do 10. And this is the one I did when you were on stage. Jane from JLP rocks.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much.
This is for you.
Thank you very much. Thank
Jane.
you.
Thank you.